know about you all, but I am so thankful to be here. I'm inspired by being here. I'm energized by the conversation that's taking place today, by the people in this room, and by this awe-inspiring setting that we're in right now. And I think it's just pretty cool that we can all, be together and do this today. I think that you're going to find that the two panelists that I'm going to talk to right now are also very inspiring. Dr. Ruth Shaber is founder and president of the Tara Health Foundation. Notice there's a big connection today between health and wealth for women, which promotes health, well-being, and opportunity for women and girls through innovative, evidence-informed programs. She's the co-founder and board chair of the RIA Ventures, and she's the co-author of a great book, which I read and taken copious notes. It's the XX Edge, Unlocking Higher Returns and Lower Risk. And also Robyn Russell is with us, and she's the senior director of the Gender Diverse Investing Collective, which aims to increase the portion of assets being managed by gender diverse teams to 33% by 2033, which is just a big, yeah, we can do it. We're doing it today. So we're here, and we're going to continue this conversation that centers on power, on money, freedom, and why, when women are at the helm, everybody benefits. So, obviously, I have your book, and I can attest to that it's chock full of evidence and research that when you bring women to the table to invest, you get better returns, better outcomes, but not only financial outcomes. You have better overall outcomes, plus make more money. So there's a lot of research that you found in the book. But before we just get to that, the first question I want to ask you is personal, because you spent your career as an OB/GYN. Okay, so how did you decide to, forgive me, give birth to this cause and this idea, pun intended? Why'd you want to focus on this?
So I had a wonderful career as an obstetrician gynecologist, and yes, I had lots of patients with menopause, and I did spend more than 10 minutes with them, I swear. I also had the opportunity to be a senior executive at Kaiser Permanente, and I had a wonderful career. But I left in 2012 and had the good fortune to be able to start the Tara Health Foundation in 2014. And we're a little different than most family foundations in that we're 100% mission aligned, which means that in addition to our grant making, we have a strategy for every asset class. So in private capital, in debt, fixed income, public markets, we think very strategically about how we're going to leverage our investments in order to serve our mission. And through the course of that work, I learned a lot about finance, and I also saw that our portfolio was really outperforming. And it wasn't in spite of being mission aligned and in spite of having 100% gender focus, but it was because we were 100% gender focused. And to get to Pam's question, this was a theme that was really being pulled through my entire career as a women's health doctor, as working as a female executive at a really large and complex healthcare organization, and now thinking about capital and how you can use capital to benefit women. I was really seeing how when women are at the center of financial decision making, better things happen. You get better returns, and you heard all the data all day today. I had the good fortune of meeting my co-author, Patience Merrimae Ball. Is my microphone still working? It sounds like it's patchy. In 2019, and she has an extremely different lived experience than me. She's Zimbabwean. Her career was in finance and development at the IFC and the World Bank. And lo and behold, she was seeing the same thing. When you invest with women, when women are the actors in financial decision making rather than the beneficiaries or the victims of financial decisions, better things happen. And so we were pooling our knowledge and our experience and realized that it was time to jump the fence. All of you know all of this. You are living it every day. You're building the evidence. You're building the programs. But 98.8% of capital is still being managed by white men who haven't heard this story. So our intention was to write the book so that we could present the evidence case present the power of diversity to folks who hadn't heard it before. So that was our intent, and I hope we've succeeded.
A lot. How did you meet? This is not one of the planned questions, but I'm just curious. How did you get to know each other? Just quickly. Robyn.
Should I take it
You
away?
can take it. Yeah.
Well, I had the pleasure of working with Ruth when I worked at the United Nations Foundation, and I led an initiative to work with big global companies that employ disproportionate numbers of women in their supply chain. So a lot of apparel and agriculture, tea, coffee, cocoa, whatever clothes you're wearing right now, they were probably made by a woman somewhere. And I was working to get companies to make time-bound measurable commitments to improve the health and well-being of women in their supply chains because it was the right thing to do, but it was also a smart thing to do. And we were working to make the business case to these companies to say investing in women makes sense. And I met up with Ruth, and fast forward, I was working at a healthcare tech company and I had a baby, and turns out having a newborn and working at a healthcare tech startup is the two things don't go super well together. So I called up Ruth for some career advice, and she said, hey, I wrote this book and I want to turn it into a movement. Why don't you come with me and build it? And so here I am.
Wow. Yeah. So
So never hesitate to call up old friends when you're looking for a new job, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yes.
dynamic duo. When I started in this industry, which was a really long time ago in the financial services industry, there was not very much data available on gender diversity. I mean, I think I would have been laughed out of the room, honestly, in where I was. So in general, the financial services industry has a really long way to go before we even make a dent. But numerous studies over the past couple of decades, we've seen that the outperformance of gender diverse, I'll put it that way, teams really does, across all industries, outperform it. I know we keep hitting that, and it's like we're hammering that point. But Ruth, tell us what your research shows that's new, that adds to this.
I think that what's new is that it's really consistent across all asset classes. And we've heard lots of the data that 21% better performance for senior teams in McKinsey, 63% better performance when there's at least one founder. The fact that when women are debt holders for small businesses, that they're more reliable repayers of that debt and they're more loyal to their banks. Like, why don't men need a woman to co-sign their loans? I don't understand. I mean, if I was running a big bank, that would be the business model that I would want. Anyway, I digress. But I think that what we did in the book is we really tried to understand this consistent pattern and have a rationale for it. And you heard about that this morning as well, about the collaborative nature of women, that women take risk differently, they evaluate risk differently, that they think about the long view. But this is really a diversity argument. This is about when everyone in the room making a decision looks exactly the same, that you miss stuff, that there's blind spots, that if you're designing products for one part of the population and they're not represented in the room, then you have things like airbags that don't work for women in the car, or medications that don't work for women because they weren't included in the clinical trials. So I think that's what we did in the book, that we all know the data, we've seen it every day, but we really tried to put a bow around it and explain it in a way that makes sense. It's really hard to refute.
Yeah, well, we need to, because we all know that when it comes to investing, diversification wins all battles. So when it comes to diversity, I mean, it's just the same thing. It's just look at the results, pay attention to the results, do something about the results. Robyn?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you asked, what can we do? So I think the book is why, why invest with gender diverse teams and other types of diverse teams too. And now the question becomes how? We've read all the research. What are we going to do about it? And so we're standing up the Gender Diverse Investing Collective. We're really excited about it. And we have, I'll start with the good news. We have a goal. We want 33% of assets under management to be managed by gender diverse teams by 2033. So our tagline is 33 by 33. And I think what sets this apart is there are a lot of initiatives which are incredibly important that look at women on boards, women in the C-suite, and women entering in sort of at the entry level of the pipeline, right? But what we're looking at is women in the middle and how much money are they managing? We want to look at the numbers of women. We want to look at the numbers of people of color that are managing money. But really critically, we're looking at AUM. How
Robyn,
much money are they managing?
I want to ask you a quick question there. Going back to the research really quickly, things that jump out at you that would really surprise people. Like I know you've had some research from Vanguard about, I just think, kind of hitting on what a difference, what a delta there really is.
Absolutely. There's, even since the book came out, the research just keeps on coming. So some people in this room might have seen a Vanguard study by Stephen Lawrence, and he looked at 2,600 U.S. active equity funds and found that gender diverse teams outperform all female teams, this is portfolio management teams, and all male teams, and outperform the benchmark by 47 basis points per year. I mean, if there was one strategy, if you're an asset owner or you're advising someone, right, who has assets about how to increase their returns, how to reduce their risk, this is such a simple strategy. Diversify the team managing your money.
And when
right?
we say 47 basis points, I don't want to race by that. Let's draw a picture of what that is. That's significant, and over what period of time?
Right. 47 basis points per year. I'll add one more thing to that, which is you guys might have seen the WTW study that just came out on International Women's Day. Similarly, they looked at gender diverse teams in the top quartile, gender diverse teams in the bottom quartile. Again, found those in the top quartile by gender diversity outperformed by 46 basis points. So the numbers just keep coming. This is such an obvious strategy, and we're looking for people to adopt it, and we can talk a little bit more about what we're calling on folks to do.
And I just want to add one more thing. How many of you in the room consider yourself a portfolio manager? You guys are making the decisions about which businesses get invested in. What's the you're engaging with companies around their pay equity or all of the issues that we care about. That the portfolio managers, we really think if you're going to pick one nexus in the systems map of finance, you guys are really special. And so that's what we're targeting, and we're trying to be really narrow about the who. The how is super important too. We don't mean to disregard that at all. But that the evidence shows that if diverse teams are making these decisions at the portfolio management level, based on the work that's coming out over and over again, all the other good stuff we want is going to happen.
And let's be clear, we're not talking about replacing men. We're talking about diversity across everything, because this is where the evidence is, and this is where the movement comes from. I love what you said in your book, and I've heard you say it too, that the true measure of power is in the actual portion of assets under management that are controlled by gender diverse teams. And in the company that I founded, Wealthramp, I have financial advisors that are in my network on my platform, and I take pride in the fact that we have about a third of our financial advisors are female financial advisors versus the industry standard, which is still something like 20%. 15? Yeah, I said today that I thought it was about 16, and someone corrected me and said, no, it's more like 20, but I think, it's lower than 20%. It's more like 15. And I find that with my company, when people are looking for financial advisors, this is interesting. When they do say that it matters, that gender does matter. Does gender matter? Yes, no. And then the next question is, the follow-on is, they tell that four times, these investors are 4 times more likely, the ones that care about gender, are to ask for a female advisor. 4 times these people coming to me looking for an advisor saying, I want a woman, I want a female. And these are not women. This is a mix of men and women.
They must have read the book.
They read the book. They have, exactly. So the gender, what I want to get to with you, Robyn, is the Gender Diverse Investing Collective, really shares the same mission, obviously. Tell us a little bit more about action steps, because I love the theory of everything, but I'm more a person who's like, but what are we doing?
Yeah. I think, the good news is we're seeing some movement, right? Particularly at the entry level. So we're seeing women entering financial services firms at rates similar to men. We're seeing women get more MBAs than men, and every company under the sun, right, has a DEI plan. But we're not seeing the needle move fast enough. 0.7% of all US-based assets are managed by women-owned firms. 0.7%. If you look at diverse-owned firms, it's 1.4%. So it's minuscule. And if you look at, similar to wealth advisors, if you look at fund managers, 14% of fund managers are women, and that number hasn't changed in 20 years. This has been an ongoing theme we've heard about all day, right? Which is there's a lot of talk, right? If you open the newspaper on International Women's Day, you're going to see a lot of headlines about this, about women, and women are stepping up and women are getting more wealth, and they are. But our issue and what the Gender Diverse Investing Collective is trying to do is jumpstart change. It's not going fast enough. And so we have 4 different calls to action. Sorry to have 4, but these are one call to action for 4 different groups of people. And I'd love to hand it over to Ruth to talk about what we would love asset owners and asset managers to do, and then I'll close with 2.
And I also just want to stress that we're talking about dollars, assets under management. There's only one study, the Knight Foundation, that came out that looked at AUM, and it was based on firm ownership. And my experience living in the gender investing space for a long time now is that there are more people, more products, more strategies, but that they're all competing for the same millions. And the trillions are over here. And so we think it's time that the denominator is not percentages or numbers, it's dollars. So the numerator is going to be gender diversity, but the denominator is going to be assets under management in dollars.
So I'm going to, because we're running out of time.
I want to answer.
Yeah, definitely.
So what we're asking asset owners to do in whatever place you are, whether you have a 401k, you're a trustee of your alma mater's endowment committee, or you're managing a family office, that you need to start demanding transparency in who's managing your money.
Okay, that's the one action step. Robyn, give us an action step that we can take today to help this movement.
Well, buy the book. There's some in the back. Obviously, read it. But I think just to simplify, because I know we're running short on time, reach out to us. Google Gender Diverse Investing Collective. We have a page up on the Terra Health Foundation. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Robyn Russell. Connect with Ruth on LinkedIn. We would love to talk to you. We're looking for a PR firm. We want to tell the stories of who's doing it well. We're looking for people who have deep experience in DEI training to really work with these big firms to help them meaningfully move the needle. We're talking about moving beyond frameworks and checklists into real change management in a meaningful way, so that when we meet back here in 5 years, we're not still saying that women are still 14% of fund managers, right? We want to see more women, more people of color, more money managed by more diverse teams. So get in touch with us. That's the simplest thing to do. And then we'll talk more.
Yeah. Diversity equals profitability for sure. Both of you, thank you so much. Look at this. We got 41 seconds
41
left.
seconds.
All proceeds from the sale of our book go to the Women of the World Endowment and the Tar Health Foundation. So
And the book is right back there.
we're not self-promoting.
Thanks for doing what you do.
Thanks, Anna.